Skill 10, Graphing Inequalities. The main objectives of the skill will be to graph linear inequalities and also to graph basic absolute value inequalities in two variables using transformations. First, we have to understand what makes a solution to a linear inequality in two variables. This would be any ordered pair that you put into the function and it creates a true statement when the variables of x and y are substituted into that inequality. So for these first examples, we're going to see if these are true points. So first, -1, -6. We want to see if that is a true statement to the inequality y is less than x minus 3. So we're going to put -6 in for the y. -6, is that less than -1, put in for the x, minus 3. That gives me -6 is less than -4. Well, that is a true statement. So because it is a true statement, it is a solution. Okay, next one, we have the point 1, 3. So if we put 3 in for y, less than 1 in for x, minus 3, is 3 less than 1 minus 3, -2. This is false. So because this is false, this is not a solution. Okay, and the last one, 0, 4. Put 4 in for y, less than 0 minus 3. So that gives me 4 less than -3. This is also a false statement. So because this is a false statement, this is not a solution. And then we have another example. So we have -2x minus y greater than or equal to 6. And we have the point 1, -5. So -2 times 1 for the x minus -5 for the y is greater than or equal to 6. We want to see if this is true. So that would be -2 plus 5 greater than or equal to 6. 3 greater than or equal to 6. This is a false statement. So because it's false, it is not a solution. And the next one, 2, 7. So we would have -2 times 2 for the x minus 7 for the y greater than or equal to 6. -2 times 2 is -4 minus 7 greater than or equal to 6. That would be -11 greater than or equal to 6, which is also false. So this is also not a solution. And the last one, 0, -10. -2 times 0 for the x minus -10 for the y greater than or equal to 6. -2 times 0 is 0, minus -10, so plus 10 greater than or equal to 6. 10 greater than or equal to 6. This is a true statement. So because this is true, this is a solution. Next, we are going to graph linear inequalities. When we do this, we graph them exactly like we graph lines, except instead of just doing a solid line, we're going to either do a dashed line if it is less than or greater than, and a solid line if it is an or equal to. And then we have to decide where to shade by picking a point. My suggestion to you is to pick the point 0, 0 if it is not on the line. If it is on the line, then you have to pick a different point. So we're going to graph this first one. Y is less than 2x minus 3. The m is 2 over 1. The b is -3. So I'm going to find -3 on the y-axis. And then I'm going to move to the m, up 2, 1, 2, over 1. And then I'm going to just keep going like that. and this is a less than, so it would be a dashed line. And that would be our line. Now we have to decide where to shade. To decide where to shade, pick a point not on the line. So I'm going to pick 0, 0, and then see if that's a true statement. 0 less than 2 times 0 minus 3. 0 less than negative 3. This is a false statement. So that means I need to shade not where this point is. I'm going to shade on the other side of the line. And that would be my answer. This next one, we have y is greater than or equal to 6x plus 4. So then once again, we have the m, which is 6 over 1 this time, and we have the b, which is positive 4. So I'm going to plot the positive 4, and then I am going to rise over run up 6, and then over 1. And this time, because it is greater than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line. And then I just have to decide where to shade. So to decide where to shade, I'm going to pick a point not on the line. 0 greater than or equal to 6 times 0 plus 4. Gives me 0 greater than or equal to 4. This is a false statement. Because it is false, I'm going to shade away from that point. Final answer. For these next ones, we're going to graph absolute value inequalities. This is similar to the idea of the last one, graphing lines. We're going to graph the equations like normal, which would be using transformations. And then we're going to decide on the type of line, whether it's a dashed line or if it's a solid line. And then we're going to decide where to shade by picking a point that's not on the line, 0, 0, or a different point. So this first one, we have y is greater than or equal to absolute value of x minus 3 plus 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is identify the transformations. The minus 3 says right 3. The plus 2 says up 2. So I'm going to take my original V-shaped graph like that, and I am going to move it to the right 3 and up 2. Then I can decide what kind of line it's going to be. It will be a solid line because it is or equal to. So I have a V-shaped graph that looks like that. That's just the graphing part. Now I can decide where to shade. So when I decide where to shade, I pick a point not on the graph. 0, 0. 0 is greater than or equal to absolute value of 0 minus 3 plus 2. Okay, so 0 minus 3 is negative 3, but that's in the absolute value, so that's positive 3. So we have 0 is greater than or equal to 3 plus 2, which is 5. 0 greater than or equal to 5. This is a false statement. So because this is a false statement, I'm going to shade on the other side of the line. So that means inside the V. And the next one, we have to start by getting it solved for y. So when I am solving this for y, I'm going to subtract the 1 over, and then I am going to divide by a negative 1. But when I divide by a negative inequality, then I need to flip the sign. So I am really graphing y is greater than negative absolute value x plus 2 plus 1. That's what I'm really graphing. Okay, so the negative is a reflection over the x. The plus 2 is left 2, and the plus 1 is up 1. So I'm not going to do a V this time. This time it's going to be a mountain shape because it reflects over that x-axis. Then I'm going to go left 2 for the peak of my mountain and up 1. So there's the peak of my mountain, and then I'm going to go down 1 over 1 to create my mountain shape. And then I need to realize this is actually going to be a dashed line because it is not actually or equal to. So I'm going to go back in and make sure that I make that a dashed line. And now I have my sketch. But I need to figure out where to shade, so I'm going to pick a point not on the line. I can still pick the point 0, 0 because it is not on the line. And I'm going to put that in. You can put it into the original or into your changed one. It doesn't matter. 0 greater than negative absolute value 0 plus 2, which is 2 plus 1. So I have 0 greater than negative 2 plus 1, which is negative 1. This is a true statement. So therefore, I'm going to shade on top of that point, which is like the sky of the mountain. And that's it for your notes on Skill 10, graphing linear inequalities and absolute value inequalities. Make sure you bring your questions to class, and we will do a little more work before we take the quiz.